Ready to learn about 4 strategies for agency growth?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for coming out. Pretty good turnout. So let's do this. I'm Alex Berman. I run this company called Experiment 27, and what we do is marketing for digital agencies. So we only work specifically with digital agencies. So far, in the last couple of years, I've sold $6.5 million in B2B sales, and our company's generated over $35 million in leads, mostly from the Fortune 500 for our agency clients. So here today, we're going to talk about 4 proven strategies for generating leads as a digital agency. And I ordered them. There's 4 strategies, and I ordered them in terms of how quickly they turn around leads for us and for our clients. The first one that we do is enterprise outreach. So first, I'm going to talk about what we learned about B2B sales after sending 1 million cold emails. The first one is subject lines matter. So I'm going to show a bunch of subject lines that you guys could use here. There's 4 strategies that I like to use when I think about a cold email subject line. By the way, the slides are going to be available after, so if you don't have to worry about taking too many notes or anything. So there's the referral or fake referral, and I organized these 4 subject lines in terms of how difficult they are to do at scale. So this is, hey name, found you through mutual connection. It takes the most effort. But the way you do this, if you don't know somebody at the company, you can also say, hey name, found you through podcast. Google around for an interview that somebody on the team has done and reference that podcast interview. You can say congrats on the news item. That's the second one. So hey, congrats on the new hire, or congrats on the funding round. And we're going to start with subject lines, and I'm going to go through all the copy and everything. So it's all in here. The other one is generic but customized. So hey, about our company and your company. So here's what not to do as well. If you are starting to send cold emails in bulk, if you don't clean your data, you end up with something like this. So Max is all capitalized. There's an extra space over here by the LLC. It's a mess. And then the final one, and the one that I like the best, is fully generic, which allows you to send the same sort of subject line to a bunch of people without having to change it too much. Hi from Alex is the one that actually got me my first job in New York like 3 years ago. So that's a good one. And then subject line, no subject, is actually pretty good for getting open rate. The thing to know about cold emails, besides the subject line thing, is that you don't want to be a robot when you're sending cold emails, meaning customization's best, talking like you know them is best. And in order to do that, you research into each prospect, and the more targeted and personal your engagement, the more successful it'll be. Starting general, and then we'll get specific. So cold emailing at its core is about sending a message that people are going to connect with and want to book a call from. And in order to do that, this is the framework that I found that works best. So starting with a customized first line, then moving into what you do, work you've done in their industry, results you've got, come up with a relevant idea they might benefit from, and then saying that you'd love to explain further, asking if they'll send over a couple times to hop on a quick call. The purpose of a cold email isn't to actually get a sale, especially with a Fortune 500 company. It's to get a meeting on the calendar, usually with the right person. So these are actual cold emails that have worked with our clients, 2 agencies in New York City. Actually, this one is an agency in LA, over 50 people, and the other one's an agency in New York City with 100 or so employees, both targeting the Fortune 500, and these are emails that worked for them. So came across your name while looking for contacts at company, definitely a fan of what you do. I'm with this agency, a Los Angeles-based full-service agency. We've worked with company. This is a company in the industry that we're targeting. So for this one, we're targeting hotels. So let's say it was like Holiday Inn that we referenced there. Yeah, cool. Custom e-commerce, reaching out because we've helped several great companies similar to companies. So when you're cold emailing enterprise companies, what I found works best, what most agencies don't do, is calling out a specific case study for their exact industry. What a lot of people try to do, and if you've seen any spam emails from like other companies emailing you, it's a lot of bullet points. So basically, I'm from this agency, I do UX UI development, Node.js, web development, HTML, iOS development. It's just like a big list of bullet points. And that doesn't work as well as something like this. That almost always ends up in the spam box. Here's another email following that framework. This is from the New York agency. This one's generated them meetings. Their niche was restaurants, and not regular restaurants, but like big restaurants like Chipotle or Qdoba, things like that. This got them, I think, 9 meetings in the first week, something like that, which is crazy. So director of business development at this company, an established mobile agency where we've worked with a company in their niche. Let's say, for instance, they built the Starbucks app. They built something around there. I can't say the exact app because of an NDA, but we've worked on mobile projects with many companies similar to this company. So basically, an email like this is what gets you in the door with these larger enterprise companies. What they want to see is the customization. They want to see that you've done work in their industry. And what that does is it takes the risk away from working with your company. One of the big things that these enterprise companies don't want, especially because they're not small business owners, right? So they own the budget, but they don't really take the money out of their own pockets, so their jobs are more on the line. So if you can take that risk away and show them that you've done work very similar to the work they've done in the past, it helps. So how much time should you spend on each email? Normally I'll spend about 2 minutes on research. We've outsourced a lot of it to Upwork. So basically if you saw that past email, there was a lot of things that could be swapped out. Part of creating a scalable cold email strategy is finding what you can scale and what you can't. So for us at Experiment 27, when we're reaching out to agencies for sales, one of the things that we like to comment on for customization is a project they've done in the past. So for Upwork, we'll go through the agency website, we'll find a project they've did in the past and say, hey, I really like the work you did on, let's say, Power Rangers, and put that in the email. So you can do something similar for your emails. So spend about 2 minutes on an email. And how many emails to send, I'll get into that and how you should do the math on that in a bit. Good rule of thumb is start small. So when I first started doing cold emails, I was sending about 40 a week and then ramped up to 200 a week. And now our team sends about 10,000 a week. So is buying B2B data or leads worth it? If you're trying to find email addresses for your cold emails, there's 3 services I like. Email Hunter is basically free. I think they're super cheap or free right now. That's hunter.io, I believe. I'll send a link if you guys email me or you want it. But what that does is you plug a domain into that and it'll give you the email address for anybody at that company. So that's super useful. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is what we use to find leads a lot of the time. So you can just type in like a company name or a role and it'll just list out all the people at that company. There's no limits like regular LinkedIn. And then ZoomInfo is actually my favorite lead gen tool. It's a pretty expensive, relatively expensive tool. It's like $400 a month. But it's like the combo of both of those on steroids, where you plug in any company, any criteria, and it'll give you emails, phone numbers, the name of the people at the company, like news, everything you want from ZoomInfo. So I really like that one. And the way you think about, so here's how we think about how many cold emails to send and how many closes we should get. And it's all about lead versus lag measures. There's this book I really like called 4 Disciplines of Execution. And what that book talks about is there's 2 different types of goals that you could set. A lag measure is a goal that you don't really have power over, but it's like a final goal. So for instance, a lag measure is like sales, because for sales, you get them, right? They eventually do happen, but you can't control when they're gonna happen. And there's a lag in time between the action and the goal itself. Lead measures are measures where there's no lag between the action and the goal itself. So for instance, for the lead measure here, it'd be cold emails, and the lag would be sales. So our goal when we were coming up with this for our own company, X27, our goal was 5 closes a week. So lead versus lag measure, you can't really do that. So I went a step back, right? What's the lag measure on sales? Is it the number of calls that I'm on with a customer? So I worked back. I'm like 1/4 of our calls turn into sales. So 25% of our calls turn into sales. For 20 calls, we'll get 5 sales. But you can't really control the amount of discovery calls that you're on. That's also a lag measure. So you take a step back, and we found out that if 10% of our cold emails turn into discovery calls, then that's 200 cold emails we have to send every week. And that's how I came up with that number before. So it's all about finding out what works for you, focusing on the lead measure, and then eventually you'll achieve your goal of booking some meetings. So it's not about that initial email though all the time. There's also a follow-up strategy. So I'll show you some real emails and then the actual follow-up strategy we use to get clients right now. So there's a few different types of follow-ups you can use. Follow-up is actually the key to getting a lot of these meetings, especially with enterprise companies. They're not going to respond to that first email, but if you call and you email and you call and you email, eventually they will meet with you. We've had a few companies, a med tech company just booked a meeting with one of our clients like last week, and the reason they booked the meeting was just because we kept emailing them. They talked about on the call, but that did end up going to proposal, so it's worth it. So hey, here's the personal connection follow-up. He said he was in LA, and basically I'm saying check out the haunted house at Universal Studios. Some very customized thing. Also check out the haunted house at Universal Studios. It's pretty cool. So here's some more versions of this. I was emailing this guy, and I asked him if he still rooted for the Cowboys, because somewhere on his LinkedIn page, he said he would like the Cowboys. And he got back because I guess he moved to New York or something. He said he loved the Jets instead. but this did get him to respond, and it did get him to send his target criteria. Here's another one. Hey, how's Miami? Hope you're doing awesome. And this is actually a cold email that's fully customized. If you guys wanted to use something similar, asking how Miami is, reading into the background, and talking just fully customized first couple lines. And I'm talking about here something that I'm gonna mention in a second, which is saying you're super excited, which is another strategy I'm gonna talk about in a bit. And then another one, which is right now. So the excitement follow-up's another one. And I really like this one because if a client goes cold on you and you want to just kind of like push them to buy or to get to the next steps, one of the easiest ways to do that is to like kind of play nice here. So, hey, I've got your word that we're starting this week, right? Smiley face, looking to get things started so we can get your company name out there. And this guy had been cold for maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And as soon as he saw this, he got back 1 minute later, literally 1 minute later, and he closed by 8:36 a.m. right there. The way we do closes at X27 and the way I recommend to agencies, we always do it over credit card. We use ChargeBee, which is a billing processing thing, and we're selling six-figure deals, so it works even with six-figure deals. I like it because there's no billing, there's no collections. We have 2 clients right now on ACH and the rest are on credit card, and it's just always a huge hassle for our account managers having to track down those ones that are not paying. So. Here's another one. So, hey, just got back from speaking with the team about this, and I'm confident that we can find as many qualified leads as you need. Would love to catch up and review next steps. Otherwise, please let me know what works. And then I followed up here. Would love an update. When's the presentation with the department heads? The team's excited to get this going. Please let me know if you have any more information. So, takeaway from this one, say you're excited and people will be excited as well, I guess. So here's, the next one is a news item follow-up, which is similar to the news item subject line. But with this follow-up, any news item to reach out to is worth reaching out to about. So for this one, it's their 1-year anniversary. So I wrote this normal email here, and I linked them to the package that they could buy right away. Then congrats on the 1-year anniversary. Let's make year 2 even better at the bottom. Here's another couple. So hey, I read the blog post on how the Super Bowl impacted on-demand services. Interesting to see how much alcohol was sold. So they wrote a blog post. I commented on the blog post. Bottom one, hey, just got the numbers back from one of their competitors. So this client we talked about, it was a live chat plugin, and we were working with another huge, large chat plugin. So I mentioned, hey, just got the numbers back from that plugin. We've been working with the team over the last few months to drive free trial signups. And I was getting them really excited because I was talking about a company that's almost exactly the same as their company. So that's a follow-up sequence. Sometimes, though, when you're sending cold emails, people just won't respond at all. That last follow-up sequence is usually when people are going a little cold on you after you've talked to them. This is the actual cold email sequence that we use to get clients at Experiment 27. So talking about mobile app. Oh, so actually this teaches a bigger point here. So I run Experiment 27, marketing agency focused on mobile app and web development firms. But then this next part, there's a ton we can do to get MadMocha more leads. 2 ideas off the bat are reaching out for strategic partnerships or optimizing your profile on Clutch. How would you feel about discussing further? So you read this email and it seems like something that I wrote just to this guy, but these 2 ideas are the same ideas I'm sending to every agency that's listed on Clutch, because I know they're interested in optimizing on Clutch, and I'll talk about lead buckets and all that stuff in a while, but I know they're going to be interested in this sort of thing because they're on a site like Clutch where they're trying to market themselves. So for your cold emails, when you're trying to come up with ideas for clients, if you think very industry specific, let's say you're targeting just soda companies, or just CPG, you can come up with 2 or 3 ideas that match almost all those CPG companies and send them out, and you won't have to customize too much. So it's better for sending at scale. So here's another follow-up I sent him. He didn't respond to that one. So I said, when would be a good time for you to discuss? And I linked to Calendly, which is my booking tool that I like to use. I'm a big fan of tools that get rid of email back and forth. And then he didn't respond to that. So I said, at this point, I'm going to assume improving your marketing is not on your timeline. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions about generating more leads for your agency. And he got back the same day after not responding to 4 emails in a row. So, hey, sorry for the delay, it's been busy, and then he had questions about what we offered. So a lot of the times when people aren't responding to your cold emails, it's because they're busy. It's not because they don't like what you offer. Or a lot of the times it's because they don't understand what you do. Based on his question, I don't think he really understood what we offered, but he did get back. So that's cold email. The next thing I want to talk about is more on the sales side. So here's the exact outreach system we use with our team members for tracking their cold emailing work. It's a custom Google Doc that we made. animated or color-coded things based on how much work they're doing. I find this very helpful for getting the sales team to actually work, because you can run through this every single day. It's basically the process every day, everything they're supposed to be doing with a color-coded target based on each one, all lead measures. So, sent the initial emails, sent the assignment over to the VA. On Tuesday, it's following up on the email, following up on the calls, checking in with the VAs. Very simple there. And if you email me after, I could send you that doc as well. Here's our initial targets that we like to use per client. This is per client. Our sales guys work on 4 clients each. So for your sales teams, you probably want to do 4 times this. So anywhere between 100 and 200 plus emails a day. And we've got our notes right here. And then this is a breakdown, a closer view of what that Excel doc looks like for each one of the 4 clients. This was taken on a Monday or Tuesday, I think. And this, for each one of the 4 clients, they've got docs to fill out so that they can stay on track. So how to automate cold email outreach, right? We talked a lot about how to customize it. How to automate it, it's basically a few steps. One, like we were mentioning before, is identify lead buckets. And what those are they're lists online, or they're places online where people that are interested in what you would sell hang out. So it might be job boards where people are posting about iOS development if you wanted to sell to developers. It might be, actually one of the most ingenious was we were trying to sell to manufacturing, and we just listed out the top, we found a list of like the top 500 manufacturing companies in the world. And we basically opened up the websites of each one of the manufacturing companies, and we just used the list to find which ones had terrible websites to email. So that's another example of a lead bucket. Think about where your customers would be if they're interested in your sort of service. The lead bucket I like to use for Experiment 27, and actually the way some of you came to this event is going where agencies like to market. So for instance, a lot of agencies, if they're trying to market themselves, they create a Behance account, a Dribbble account, and almost always, if they're a little bigger, they create a Clutch.co account. So by going where agencies are, where they want to market themselves, it allows us to sell more effectively to agencies. You can use that same thought process to find partners, and you can use that same thought process to find your clients. So identify lead buckets, hire and train your team to build lead lists. I've got a bunch of YouTube videos up that kind of go over this in more detail, but it's training the team to go through all the tools that we talked about a second ago. Write a custom email drip based on what we talked about, and that's it. So here's another cold email example that we used to book with a nonprofit, Global Footprint Network's the top 20, one of the top 20 biggest nonprofits. I said I'm very impressed with them, very impressed with Network's mission of making more business use of the ecological footprint, especially the ecological footprint calculator. My name's Alex Berman, and I help nonprofits, and I named Ashoka, which is another huge nonprofit, and University of Oklahoma, which isn't a nonprofit, but it's a school, so it's kind of close. Improve their digital strategies. I have a list of ideas you could use to streamline processes. Would you like me to send them over? And they said yes, and I sent over the ideas, and I met with the director of social, I think, over there. The other thing I want to talk about, so that's cold emails. That's cold emails. The other way that we book meetings is cold calling. This is another New York agency, another pretty big one actually. They're about 150 people, and we worked with their sales team and booked these 6 meetings in 6 days. We've been booking even more for them after that. But the way we like to do it, the first question to ask if you're trying to go after the enterprise is to think, is your company actually ready for the enterprise? Usually what that means is before you scale an enterprise strategy, you want to make sure you have at minimum a case study for an industry that has Fortune 500 companies in it that you can scale. So something at scale. Let's say you're trying to go after beverage companies. You want to at least have some soda, maybe a small soda company in your case studies that you can reference. Alternatively, you want to have another Fortune 500 company. That's ideal, but that's at minimum. So the way to find the Fortune 500 leads or your lead gen strategy, because I always recommend going after one industry to start, is to pick a Fortune 500 company based on a case study you want to replicate. This is School of Thought. They're an agency that we work with out in LA. They built the Red Bull app. So they built the Red Bull app, and from that, we decided we should go after another soda company. So we decided to go after the biggest one, Coca-Cola. Here's Coca-Cola's goals for 2017. So for researching the company, I always like searching goals for whatever year, because a lot of the times they'll come up with a blog post like this, where this is the 2015 year in review for Coca-Cola, where they literally listed out everything they were looking at. It was like 5 strategic actions. One of them was like apps for their employees, something like that. And then the final thing is to, two more things actually. One, find the marketing director on LinkedIn. You can do that by just searching marketing director Coca-Cola, very simple. And then cold calling till you get through. Here's a screenshot of the video where I did this. I talked to the director of marketing at I think it was Powerade inside Coca-Cola, something like that. And the way I got to him was I couldn't find a number online, so I called the Coca-Cola main number, got to the customer service. They transferred me over to like the vendor number where like you call, I guess, if your soda machine is broken. And then I asked them for this guy's number, and they just transferred me right through. And he picked up on like the third ring. So that's cold email, cold calling. Next one is agency partnerships. So for agency partnerships, there's 3 types of strategic partners to look for. At a high level, agency partnerships are basically going to people that have the type of clients you want, reaching out to them, getting them to pass clients to you so that you don't have to go find them yourself. So there's 3 types of clients to look for. One of them is people with a high number of users. So I'll have examples for all these in a second. But people with a high number of users, a good example of that is SaaS companies or co-working spaces where they have just a lot of people that might be interested. Number 2 is an agency selling to the type of customer you sell to. A lot of the times this takes, this looks like maybe you're a hardcore dev company and you reach out to like a UX or a product development team. So when that product team gets leads, they send it over to you to develop. It could also go the opposite way. You work with a development company. When they get somebody who has heavy UX needs, they send to you as well. And then at the very top of the funnel, there's innovation companies. A good example of one, I think they're based in New York, is called What If. And what they do is they just take ideas and turn them into products for companies, but they always need agency partners to fulfill those ideas that they're creating. And then the third one is an agency selling the same service to a larger audience. This is going after like the WPPs of the world, but you don't have to go after like a top 5 like multi-billion-dollar agency. Usually what I like to target here is an agency that charges about double what you charge. So let's say you charge $150 an hour. This is an agency charging $300 an hour. A lot of the times those are more niche agencies. So like there's a real estate agency that I know of here that does like $330 an hour, but they only do like drawings and mobile apps for real estate. So if you're more of a generic agency, let's say you charge $150, go after an agency like that, and I'll talk about how to find those in a second. So a couple examples. Number 1 is co-working spaces. Co-working spaces like WeWork. If you can plug in, you can get a good partnership here, or Galvanize or any of the other WeWork competitors that I'm probably not allowed to mention. You can go and get a partnership with them. SaaS selling to the same type of market you want to enter. So let's say you want to enter fintech and you find a SaaS for fintech. They're by definition going to have a lot of fintech clients either to send you or to get in front of, especially if they do custom integrations and you're a dev company. And then finally, large agencies. There's a lot of niche specific agencies. So if you search, like New York pharmaceutical agencies, there's a lot that just focus on like the pharmaceutical industry, or they just focus on fintech, like they're super niche down. And if you can find those make really good partners. So that's how you find, that's the criteria, how you go after the partners, create a strategy. There's 4 steps to building a lead list of companies for partnerships as well. If it'll load. So the first one is to define a goal for the outreach. What do you actually want from the partnership? So do you want a larger agency to send you projects? Do you want to go co-pitching on projects? Whatever the goal is for the outreach. Define a client profile based on what we just talked about. So what sort of clients do you want to go after? What sort of partner is going to be the best? And then finally, go to LinkedIn and build a list of contacts, same exact way. Here's the way we send partnership emails. Most of this strategy is cold email, by the way. 3 of the 4 are cold email. So framework for a partnership email. So came across your site. It's amazing attention to detail. Love the Novartis case study and your company culture page. Looking through your clients list, I noticed many of them could more effectively sell their products with explainer videos. So this is a cold email from a video production company reaching out to, I think it was user experience agencies to help them sell their explainer videos. Have you tried upselling your videos to clients? We've done it for this client, this client, and this client, and have case studies that show improved ROI from the content that you could potentially use when white labeling our services. Does that sound interesting? Let me know and I can send over a few times. Again, the goal here with these emails is kind of the same as the goal with the last emails, which is to remove the risk. So if you have case studies, and also remove the work for them. So if you have case studies that show improved ROI, it's basically a no-brainer, right? Especially if they're a user experience agency that maybe has thought about selling video in the past, but has been burned or hasn't figured out how to sell it. So if you're selling it for them, it's basically, it's a no-brainer for them. Here's another one we use. This one generated 3 clients for Sean, who's the guy who sent this email out. And this was on a send of, I think, about 100 out in Singapore. So just came across Ver's design. Your ad caught my eye. Love the targeted placement. Also impressed with the content and copy in your portfolio. We handle copywriting. I'm working with several agencies to handle overflow work, specifically these competitors, and the feedback's been good, especially on the e-commerce clients. So he's talking about specific clients, other agencies he worked with, and a specialty that he has, which is e-commerce. And then also the PS has a customization down here. So when you book your partnership meetings, there's a few things that you want to have ready to go. The first is a 4 or 5 sentence background on your company. I always like to start off the partnership meetings this way. It's usually about a 30-second pitch. The one for Experiment 27 is just like our story compacted down. So I'll basically say that I used to work for an agency back in New York City, which is actually where we are right now. So I used to work for an agency back in New York City, and we had a sales team of 6 people that were sharing 14 leads a month. I was a junior sales guy there. My goal for sales was like $750,000 for the year. And I knew I wouldn't be able to hit it with traditional means, just taking these inbound leads. So I started researching marketing, trying to figure out what's going on. And eventually I kind of cracked the code and we went from 14 leads to 40 within 30 days of me trying this. So the founder gave me a contract to start doing marketing. The contract wasn't enough to sustain myself without hiring other clients, getting other clients. So I started getting other clients, we started building the company. And from there we started X27, which is a marketing company focused on only generating ROI and leads for digital agencies. So that's like a 30-second pitch. That's what I tell the clients. And you could do something similar. Maybe talk about like your holistic development or why you started, why you do the things you do, 4 to 5 sentences. The second thing is your approach to what you do. So how do you approach projects? What is that? Is it a 4-step process that starts with discovery? Why do you do a discovery? That sort of thing. And then the final thing is to have one solid case study, again, to remove the risk. Know that most agencies that pitch them either go in with way too many case studies or they go in with case studies that just don't look good. Having too many case studies is also as bad as having no case studies. Because basically, if it's an agency and let's say they only focus on fintech or they only focus on pharma, and you show them case studies from like the startup that you did, that actually distracts them. Whereas if you only showed them the pharma case studies or the fintech case studies you had, they'd be a lot more interested in partnering. So that's what to say during the meetings. The next thing I wanted to talk about was a quick side note, which is managing a high-performance sales team. Base is a sponsor of this event. That's why the tickets were free today. I actually use it inside this company, X27. There's 3 metrics you should track with your sales team to make sure that they hit the numbers. It's back to those lead measures and lag measures. One is every day I like to check on the number of emails sent, and then every week I like to check on the number of meetings that they're booking on the calendar. Those are the 2 metrics you don't want to lose track of. And then the third one is more of a lag measure, which is number of deals closed. But that could take, 3 to 6 months, right? If they're bad. For us, our sales cycle is about 30 days. So here's actually how we use Base. Base is actually pretty good CRM. It's got a feed of what all the sales guys are doing inside of the app. It's got our total pipeline here, and then forecasted is how much we think is going to close, let's say in the next 3 months. I don't actually know how it's measured. And then it has an organized sales pipeline, so we can see what are the incoming deals, what deals are on hold, what meetings do we have on the calendar, how many of those are qualified, how many are contracts sent, and then how many are closed out. And this just lets us visualize it a lot easier than an Excel spreadsheet. I've been using Base basically since I started the company. Oh, and that's getbase.com. I feel like I have to say that. So how to run an effective sales meeting in under 20 minutes. These are the ways, this is the way I structure the sales meeting with our internal sales team. And it's 2 things that I want to look out for. So we have 2 meetings per week. One is on a Monday. The other one used to be on a Friday. Now it's on a Thursday because there usually wasn't too many updates between Friday and Monday. 2 meetings per week. It's usually about 20 minutes. And we run through each deal in Base. So we go through, I look through the project's about to close and I just ask them for an update on each one. Normally they have a lot of notes there. And then the second thing I want to do is I ask for current status on outreach. So I want to know how many emails did you send this week and how many calls did you make? And then they just tell me. But the ideal thing is to get a specific number. So if their goal is 200, a lot of the times they'll just say I sent 200 emails. But if you dig down and you ask them how many did you really send and you look into their stats, sometimes it'll be 203 or it'll be 198. So I'm always trying to get that exact number so that it makes it harder to lie. And it's the same thing for cold calls. So that's agency partnerships. It's how to manage a team. Those are the 2 most effective. Third most effective is directories and sponsorships. So the reason why directories are so powerful is if you search mobile app development firms, like for instance, I searched this. This was in Florida, by the way. This isn't even New York, but you notice it's almost all New York agencies. A couple of our clients are on here. Clutch.co is the #1 search result on Google, and they're also the #1 search result up here in this top box that somebody knows the name of, but I don't. So how do you reach #1 on directories, right? Because directories are super important. Some of our clients, like the one you saw up there in the #1 spot, they were getting about 150 leads a month, big projects. McDonald's came through there, Boston Consulting Group came from there, all from being #1 on this directory. So how to reach #1 on directories in general, because it's not just Clutch. #1 is sponsoring, so paying to be at the #1 spot. The other one is getting reviews, showing activity, 1 new review a month. Most people will set up their profile in a directory and just won't have any reviews. It's actually similar with Behance and Dribbble. Like, how many of you have had your clients comment in your Dribbble profile? Nobody. All right, cool. Yeah, your clients exist. You can have them comment and leave testimonials in your Dribbble. So what do the top profiles have in common is also something to study. I have a YouTube video where I broke down the top profiles on Behance and Dribbble. Anyone can do that in like 20 minutes. Just look at, what do all the profiles that are the top of this directory have in common, and how can you use this, maybe not copying them, but seeing what they did right, and then using it to influence your profile. And the final thing is relationships with account managers at the directories. A lot of the times these account managers are just kind of sitting around, not really doing much, because it's an SEO-focused business. So they'll answer calls, they'll answer emails, and you can just ask them questions. A lot of the times, and I'll talk about how I got to #1 on Clutch in a few cities in a second, but it is basically just calling and asking them stuff. And then the final thing, or 2 more things, one is the average rating, so trying to keep your rating above like a 4.7, right, because a lot of them are star ratings. And then a high amount of activity, so a high amount of profile changes. A lot of these directories rank not based on just clicks or not based on anything scientific. A lot of them base their ranking on how many times you log into the directory backend, or how many times you change the wording on your page. So that's general directories. I have a section for Clutch specifically, because Clutch right now is the most powerful directory. If you're on top of New York Clutch, it was worth millions for the client that I was working with. So get on clutch.co, create an account there. I think it's free. Email your account manager immediately, send them another review, have at least 10 reviews at the minimum, and have 1 focus over 50%. If you guys have Clutch profiles, what a lot of people will do when they set them up is they want to kind of capture all the leads. So they say, like, I do iOS development, web development, basically the same thing as those bullet points. But what Clutch actually recommends, and what works for us, is having 1 focus over 50%. So let's say you really want iOS development projects. You say I do 52% iOS, and then the rest is like UX design. That helps way more than having everything on your profile. And then the final things, be above the fold with your description. Clutch has like a 1 or 2 sentence description, and then everything else over there. Emailing your account manager. The way that I found this out is I was just kind of sitting there in a meeting one time creating our Clutch profile, and I was kind of mad that we weren't like #1, we were like number 4 or 5. So I just kind of got frustrated and called them, and they literally told me almost this step by step, like, how do you actually get to #1 on Clutch? And so we did it, and it worked. So that's a bigger lesson. And then the final thing is make 1 small change on your profile per week. What I like to do is just change, like, if there's a word "and," I'll change it to an ampersand, or I'll just get rid of like a space or something, and that's usually enough to keep us there. The final thing is sort of what you're attending right now, meetups and in-person events. I used to run a meetup in New York called Meetup for Brand and Marketing Managers. It had 2,500 members. We used to do these drinks every single month that had like 110 people at each drink. I would just go around, meet everybody, pitch the app development company I was at, and I would always leave with about 50,000 to 60,000 in new leads just from doing that, and I'll tell you how to do that. So here's the screenshot of the meetup that I ran. This is the actual copy here. Meetup's still around. A lot of people forget about Meetup. It does still exist. Events are a very strong way to generate leads. How do you structure a meetup? I like to structure a meetup just as a simple drinks. Like, normally I don't do these talks. I just like to kind of go to bars, and the meetup that we did in New York was at the Art Bar downtown. There was no RSVPs or anything. Everyone would just rush in there on like a Tuesday, and the bartenders, they actually hated me for some reason. Like, the bar was too small to accommodate. But no need to RSVP, no need to do anything crazy. To do an event like this, it's a little tougher, but I've got a YouTube video that breaks it all down that you can check out later. How do you promote a meetup? Basically, Google industry events in cities. So brand marketing or brand manager events in New York City, whoever your target is, and I'll talk about how to identify the right events to go to, all that stuff in a couple slides, but like brand manager events in New York. And you find a bunch of these directory sites. and you post on them. So on all these directory sites, it usually says, don't see your event, list your event here. And you just list it. The directory site for events that I like the best is Gary's Guide. I actually use that to promote this event. I paid for a sponsorship. Got on the first page of Gary's Guide, like right up at the top, and a banner, and it was like 150 bucks. So pretty cheap for that. And also cold email. This is if you guys were in touch with Ronaldo at all, this is the email that he was sending you guys. This one I think drove 60 or 70 RSVPs. It's not played though. You saw the customization. It spoke to you. So talking about the free event, talking about how you guys are going to meet a bunch of agency owners. It's all in there. This email actually did extremely well. I think it was like a 10% response rate or something crazy high for a scalable email like that. So how to get an ROI from meetups and events. The biggest hack that I've actually found for meetups and events is the next day emailing people a simple email like this after you meet them. Almost nobody emails the next day after events. It's super weird. And if you think about it yourself, if you go to a meetup, you're always collecting business cards. But how often are you sitting down at your computer and seeing like the emails come in from everybody you met? It's almost never. So I usually used to be the person that would have the stack of business cards, put it down, and just send a simple email. So like, hey, great seeing you at the meetup. Let me know if you're around for a call or coffee to keep talking about the app idea. And most of the leads, come from this because you're not going to really. Sometimes you can book meetings at the event itself, but most of the time you're going to book them like the next day. So how to find the right events to attend. The first thing to think about is who is your target audience and are they going to be at the actual event itself. So for you guys, if you're at this event, you're here to learn, which is cool. But if you're here to sell, maybe this is the right event for you, maybe it's not. The thing that I like to think about is what events are my target audience going to be at? Most of the time it's going to be highly paid events because if I was going after enterprise companies, it would be events that are paid or events that have some kind of super specific niche. So like maybe it's like a Node.js meetup that costs like 50 bucks because only the company is going to pay for that. So you get a lot of people that can afford that $50 fee. So who's your target audience? What event they're going to be at? Which job titles do you go after? Which will help you pick the type of event. So if you're going after brand managers, there's a lot of brand manager meetups. If you're going after product managers, a ton of product manager meetups. What job title would be the best fit for you? And then young agency owners, what I've found here, this little growth hack is to ignore other young people at the meetup. So basically, what I found is a lot of young people will come to the meetups and they'll just talk to like other people their same age, when a lot of the times it's like the gray-haired people or even like the weird dudes in the corner that have a lot of the power, the decision-making power. Yeah. So how to find the right events to attend. In New York, it's perfect because you've got Gary's Guide. And if you look at this event sheet, there's a couple that are good here. And the way that I kind of look at it is this free event from detection to response. It seems extremely boring and it's free, so no one in your target market is probably going to be there. But Rise of Robots, that's robotics. It's a $35 event. So corporate companies that are thinking about building hardware are most likely going to be at an event like that. Product Analytics Summit, 150 bucks. Nobody that's not, a decision maker or nobody that's not at least working in this sector is going to be at that meetup. So that's a really good meetup or event for you to go to. Raising seed funding, $5. Not a good meetup, bad meetup. So choose what's right for your agency. We're wrapping down the presentation now, but basically these are the 4 that have worked consistently for us. But ideally you want to identify the goals for your agency, then work backwards to see what has to happen to reach these goals. Some target markets don't respond well to cold emails and you have to do events. Some target markets love cold emails. Other ones really like PR and going on podcasts are the best way to reach them. So it's all about testing, all about studying. Those are the 4 that we found though, so that'll help you hopefully start off your marketing testing. If you want YouTube videos, free stuff, b2bsalestraining.org. I'll email this presentation to everybody that RSVP'd on Eventbrite. And if you need to ask me a question, Alex at Experiment 27. If you look behind you, this guy, Mike, does our PPC, but he's also going to be booking meetings if you guys want to talk business after this. So thanks a lot. Cool. Q&A, any questions? Sure, so the question is, what are the strategies for cold calling? The main strategy I like to use is pretending to be the assistant of the person I'm calling for. So for instance, let's say I'm working with a digital agency and the CEO's name is Mark. I'll call on him, say I'm Mark's assistant, and we do mobile app development. I'll talk mobile apps, but you can kind of use this for your own thing. And I'll say I do mobile app development, and we have this case study here, and we'd love to talk about it further. And the reason why I frame myself as the assistant is a lot of the times they're either going to ask you to email them, which means they're going to read the email the second time, or they're just going to book a meeting. And the assistant's not meant to know a bunch of technical stuff about the app, so you can have your sales guys do it without worrying that they're going to botch something. That's my main cold calling strategy. I usually like to use a combo of emails and cold calls, so I'll send a super detailed email, then I'll call them to ask them if they got the email. Because almost always, especially if you're going for like more expensive products like that, the decision maker is not going to be the one answering the call or really responding to the email. A lot of time it's the secretary. So if you call somebody and you ask them to look at the email, almost always that email is going to end up forwarded to the right person, which is really what you want. Okay, so the question was, yes, the question was, how do you decide what things to use? Do you use smiley faces? My answer to that is just keep testing. So for instance, a lot of the times, or for a long time, we used a cold email similar to the one that I showed you for booking our meetings. And what I actually found, and I didn't realize this till last week, and I'll tell you how I found this out, is the email was appealing almost 100% to agency owners that were men. And the reason why I found this out is my new sales guy, Billy, wrote a new email with exclamation points, like with smiley faces and all this stuff, and we booked meetings with almost exclusively female digital agency owners. Whereas before, for the last year and a half, I hadn't met a single female agency owner like in the 30 or 40 meetings I was taking every month, which it's kind of odd, but that's the type of stuff that I guess people respond to. So for you, I'd say if you are afraid of losing your own voice, you don't have to change it, but some things do appeal to different types of people, different backgrounds. Any other questions? Yeah. Sure. So what titles do you contact was the question. It really depends on the size of company. So I found that if it's under like 150 employees, usually the CEO is the one with decision-making power, but you have to go through someone underneath them. So it really depends on what you're selling, right? Director of Biz Dev is usually the best for us because we're selling marketing. For selling tech, it's usually it's usually product owner, like that sort of stuff. So whoever runs the team, like if you look at a company like Coca-Cola, there's not just like one guy that runs like all of Coca-Cola. There's like a director of marketing for, let's say vitamin water, and then he's got like 5 people under him, and all of them might have marketing budgets, and there's like people under them with budgets. So there's a lot of people inside the tree. So I wouldn't really worry about just going after the CEO unless you're going after a small company. If you're going after a super small company, you usually can just email the info at or the CEO directly and get them to respond.
Would you blanket the whole team with emails?
No. What I normally like to do is I'll target one person on the team. So let's say first I'll make a list of 5 people, and I'll order them in order of who I want to talk to first. I'll email the top guy. We'll go through an email drip. Usually I send about 4 to 5 emails that take about a month to go out. If nobody responds from the team, then I'll send to the second guy, and we'll basically drip out that way. If you are going to send multiple emails to multiple people, some companies really hate it. Make sure you write completely different scripts because they will just get passed around.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Any other question? Yeah. Sure. So typical agency closing times from initial contact to close, it really depends on the deal size, but anywhere from a month to 6 months. Normally what I'll do is that initial presentation will have the deck. A lot of times I don't even use the deck. That initial call is just asking them questions about what the project's going to be about, getting basically bullet points that I can put into a proposal. And then the takeaway from that call is to either book another meeting to go over the proposal, or I'll say, hey, I'm going to email you to set up times to go over the proposal. I don't send the proposal until like an hour or so before that meeting. And the reason why I do that is almost every time that I've sent somebody a pricing sheet or something before we've talked pricing out loud, they always go dark. So the easiest way to get them to show up to a meeting is to send the proposal right before the meeting. And then from there you go to contract negotiation. It really depends on how many people are in the company. But the sales cycle I like to do is initial contact discovery call, like 20 minutes, then proposal, then if they have more questions on the proposal, send a contract. I like to do my proposals with signature boxes at the bottom because sometimes they'll just close right away. And then from there, there's just legal back and forth, negotiation, and then close. I always try to optimize a cold email till it gets a 10% positive response rate. And usually that means about a 25% response rate in total. For our clients, it really depends because there's a lot of different factors. The biggest factor I found is your website, actually. It's not even the content of your email, it's not your subject line or anything. It's does your website actually speak to the client? We've had some clients where we've sent the same niche, same type of email, but a different website, and that tanked for one of them and succeeded with the other one. And then the second one is the content of the email, rewriting the subject line so it gets opened, basically working backwards through the analytics. So nobody opened your email, so rewrite the subject line. People open the email, but they're not responding, so go line by line based on the criteria, the framework that I like to use, and make sure, is the first line turning them off? Am I saying something super weird that's not relevant? Does the pitch actually portray what I'm trying to say? Does it actually show what's up? And does the email actually have a next step to the bottom, at the bottom of it that ends with a question mark? Because a lot of emails don't have a question mark.
That 10%.
Yeah.
How many deals get closed percentage-wise?
Industry average close rate is about 25% for an agency. And it really depends on the sales team and everything, but that's the average, about 25%. Yeah. So I think there's a hole in my presentation. No, because I actually use Yesware, and I didn't even mention that. So Yesware is our cold email sending tool, and I think it's like $15 a month, and basically what that does is it lets you write your email drip out, where it'll send the first email, and then if they don't open or they don't click on that email, it'll send another email 3 days later, and then another email, then another email, basically as it goes down. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like automating it. I like to think of it, like I used to play World of Warcraft in high school, and I like to think of it like botting in World of Warcraft, like trying to get, like the emails are sending regardless of what you're doing. I don't know if that resonated at all. Yeah, sure. So there's two main targets here. One is agency owners over $2 million in revenue. That's our core client for Experiment 27. And then the other target market that's here are agency owners and freelancers under $2 million in revenue. And the reason why they're here is that's the target market for the YouTube channel, trying to build out more YouTube subscribers. And then we also do private coaching that's a lot cheaper than what we charge for Experiment 27. So how do you know if you should give up on a deal if they're asking for a lot of information? The easiest way to get through that is to automate the follow-ups. So use something like Yesware. What I'll do is if somebody's like chasing me down, one, I mean, why would you give up on the deal, right? Hire a sales guy if you really hate it that much. Chase down every single deal. But if they do go dark, automating emails that go out every week, every 2 weeks until they respond. That's one of the reasons I have the YouTube channel is to send random videos to people that they find valuable. You can also send blog posts, you can send case studies, any of that stuff. Yeah. Yeah, no, there's a ton of people that say they're not interested or unsubscribe. I just ignore them. Actually, one, I ignore them. It kind of hurts. I try to just pretend they never happened. And then the second thing is if they do have more than just like unsubscribe, I'll ask them for feedback. A lot of the times I'll cold call them and I'll say, hey, what was it about this email that you didn't like? Like what actually turned you off? And we've tweaked a lot of our stuff based on that feedback. Yeah. Oh, how do you avoid getting marked as spam? Yeah, so the easiest way to avoid getting marked as spam is to write an email. Two things. One, write an email that looks customized and looks like it's being sent by a human, which is basically no HTML, plain text, kind of like that, with very few bullet points. Like something you would actually sit down and write. Let's say something that would take you like 6 or 7 minutes to write is a good enough email to send. And then the second thing is use an email tool that sends through your Gmail mail servers. So for instance, one time I lost a domain because I had ToutApp, and ToutApp's default sends through ToutApp's mail servers, which had been marked as spam. MailChimp or any of these other ones that you're using as well, if they're not signed onto your list, it won't send through those servers, or you can get marked as spam that way. So Yesware sends through the mail servers. I think Close.io does as well. Like there's a few email tools that send through Gmail. And if you do it that way, there's no way that unless somebody marks you spam, Google will figure out that you're mass sending. All right, let's do one more question. Anyone? All right, we're done. Thanks, guys. Thanks.